Sanford and Son was more than just a classic sitcom. It was a cultural phenomenon that helped redefine American television in the 1970s. With its unforgettable characters, witty dialogue, and groundbreaking representation, the show left an indelible mark on pop culture. But behind the laughter and success lies a more somber truth. Several of the show's beloved cast members have since passed away, some under tragic or unexpected circumstances. In this retrospective, we take a closer look at the personal struggles, quiet battles, and heartbreaking endings of the actors who brought so much joy to millions. Their lives off-screen were often far more complex than we knew. Red Foxx, born John Elroy Sanford on December 9, 1922, played Fred G. Sanford in 1972 at the age of 50. His role as the crotchety junk dealer who faked heart attacks while calling out "Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you," made him a legend in American comedy. Fred Sanford was a paradox, bitter and sarcastic but secretly tender-hearted, a man whose comedic timing and verbal sparring with Aunt Esther cemented the show's appeal. The character's outbursts masked a deeper affection for his son Lamont, and the public adored this duality. But Fox's real life was far darker than the sitcom's laugh track ever suggested. Born into a poor family in St. Louis and abandoned by his father, he grew up in Chicago's South Side, facing racial mockery and poverty. As a teen, he ran away and joined the Chitlin circuit of black performers, hiding pain behind jokes. Despite TV fame, Fox's career was a roller coaster of canceled shows, IRS seizures, and acrimonious feuds with NBC. He was known for being volatile on set, once halting production over dressing room disputes. His 1986 variety show bombed, humiliating him professionally. Behind closed doors, he cycled through 4 marriages, each ending in betrayal or debt. His adopted daughter, Debraca, later distanced herself over inheritance squabbles. Fox's addictions to gambling, women, and luxury were no secret. He once owned 14 cars but couldn't pay for utilities. After multiple family deaths and being blacklisted by networks, his decline was swift. He died on October 11, 1991, at age 68 from a massive heart attack while rehearsing The Royal Family in Los Angeles. Ironically, castmates thought he was joking when he collapsed. His estate was a financial wreck. Foxx owed over $3.6 million to the IRS, and despite earning millions during Sanford and Son, he died with a net worth of negative $3.5 million. The king of insult comedy left behind only chaos, lawsuits, and an unforgettable laugh. Don Beexley, born on March 10, 1910, took on the role of Bubba Beexley in Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 62. Bubba was Fred Sanford's wide-eyed, slow-moving, loyal companion, often providing light-hearted comic relief and naive one-liners that became fan favorites. While his character seemed gentle and affable, Don's real life was far more turbulent and complex. Raised in a deeply segregated Virginia town, Don grew up in a home marked by violence, with a father who abandoned the family and a mother who struggled with mental illness. He often performed on the streets as a child to earn coins, and was mocked relentlessly for his lisp and ragged clothes. Behind the scenes in showbiz, Beexley faced systemic racism and intense professional jealousy. Though he made history as the first black stand-up comedian to perform in the Borscht Belt, he was often denied credit for his original routines, some of which were later used without acknowledgement by white comedians. One of his most devastating career moments came when a script he pitched to a major studio in the 1960s was reportedly stolen and turned into a TV pilot without his name attached. Beexley's friendship with Red Foxx lasted nearly 5 decades, but it wasn't without turbulence. They had a falling out in the late 80s when Beexley accused Foxx of profiting from one of his skits without permission. Personally, Beexley never married but was known for a string of secretive affairs with younger women, including one scandalous rumor involving a Las Vegas showgirl who later sued him for emotional distress, though the case was settled quietly. He remained financially unstable for most of his life, even during his television years, and reportedly borrowed money from friends well into his 80s. Despite being honored as an outstanding senior citizen in 1989, he lived his final years in a small apartment in Hampton, Virginia. He passed away on April 15, 1997, at age 87 due to heart and kidney failure. At the time of his death, his estate was valued at less than $30,000, with no property or major assets. LaWanda Page, born Alberta Richmond on October 19, 1920, joined Sanford and Son in 1973 as Ann Esther Anderson at age 53. The God-fearing, Bible-wielding foil to Fred Sanford, Aunt Esther was iconic. Her fiery sermons and purse-swinging threats provided some of the show's most quoted moments. She was righteous, hilarious, and utterly unforgettable. But Paige's life off-camera was a masterclass in survival and reinvention. Raised in East St. Louis in a deeply segregated neighborhood, she was sexually harassed by school staff and bullied for her looks. Her family was dirt poor. She left home at 15 to join a traveling gospel show and later turned to burlesque to survive. Before Hollywood called, she made money eating fire and walking on glass in seedy nightclubs. Her act was raw, raunchy, and unfiltered, earning her underground fame as the Bronze Goddess of Fire. When she was cast as Aunt Esther, producers almost fired her for her lack of acting experience until Red Fox demanded she stay. Behind the laughter was a woman worn by life. Paige was never married and had one daughter, Clara, who struggled with addiction. Though never scandal-ridden in tabloids, Paige battled quietly against industry racism and ageism. She sued a club in the 1980s for discrimination but settled quietly. She never enjoyed large financial success. Her comedy albums were banned from many stores, and she was paid significantly less than male peers. Suffering from diabetes in later years, she lost mobility and was rarely seen in public. She passed away on September 14, 2002, in Los Angeles at age 81 due to complications from diabetes. Despite her TV fame, her estate was modest. Her net worth at death was approximately $500,000, consisting mainly of residuals and a modest home in South Central LA. Though she died with little, her fierce portrayal of Aunt Esther ensured her legacy as one of TV's fiercest, funniest women. Whitman Mayo was born on November 15, 1930, and brought the unforgettable Grady Wilson to life in 1973 at the age of 43. Grady, Fred Sanford's bumbling, forgetful best friend, was a crowd pleaser with his wild hair, meandering stories, and the iconic phrase, "good goobly-goo." Though audiences laughed at his confusion and awkward gait, few knew of Mayo's internal struggles. His childhood in Harlem was defined by instability. His father was incarcerated when he was just a boy, and his mother fell into deep depression, leaving Whitman to be raised by an aunt who reportedly abused him emotionally. Seeking escape, he joined the U.S. Army at 18 but was dishonorably discharged after a violent confrontation, a dark secret he kept hidden from public view. Despite earning a degree in theater from the University of California, Berkeley, Mayo struggled for years to find work, often facing racism and rejection in casting rooms. He was known in Hollywood circles for his outspoken criticism of producers, which earned him a reputation as difficult, effectively blacklisting him for years. His lowest point came in 1985 when he was arrested after crashing his car while intoxicated. Though he claimed the accident was minor, leaked police reports revealed he had a blood alcohol content twice the legal limit and was uncooperative with officers. Mayo was also rumored to have a gambling problem in the late 70s, frequently visiting underground poker clubs in Los Angeles, where he reportedly lost thousands of dollars and once had to be bailed out by a castmate. His marriage to Gail Mayo suffered under the weight of these pressures. They separated twice, and their only son, Ron Mayo, was estranged from him for nearly a decade. The two reconciled shortly before Whitman's death. Despite personal turmoil, Mayo found stability later in life, teaching drama at Clark Atlanta University and opening a small travel agency. He died of a heart attack on May 22, 2001, in Atlanta, Georgia, at the age of 70. His net worth was estimated at $1 million, mainly from real estate investments and royalties, though most of his estate was left to charity and education programs. Gregory Sierra was born on January 25, 1937, and stepped into the role of Julio Fuentes in Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 35. As Fred Sanford's affable Puerto Rican neighbor, Julio brought warmth and cultural contrast to the show, often delivering lines with poise even in the face of Fred's xenophobic jabs. Audiences admired his cool-headedness and quick wit. He was one of the first Latino characters on mainstream television who wasn't a caricature, though his presence was often underutilized. Sierra's childhood was a bitter cocktail of abandonment and survival. Raised in Spanish Harlem by an aunt after both parents disappeared from his life, he grew up amid drugs, poverty, and street violence. He later confessed that he often slept with a knife under his pillow and avoided mirrors because he couldn't face what he'd become. Acting saved him, but barely. Despite a prolific career, Sierra was no stranger to professional fallout. He abruptly left Barney Miller during its peak due to a rumor breakdown, though the official story claimed he wanted new creative challenges. Industry whispers spoke of heated fights with producers and long periods of emotional withdrawal. He allegedly refused to rehearse scenes he found culturally offensive, once halting production for 2 days. Though never caught in substance abuse, his erratic behavior on set made him a difficult hire for years. Romantically, Sierra's life was shadowed by grief. His longtime partner committed suicide in the mid-1980s, and he never remarried. Friends said he blamed himself, retreating into a solitary life filled with books, religion, and silent guilt. Sierra passed away from stomach and liver cancer on January 4, 2021, at the age of 83 in Laguna Woods, California. He left behind a small estate, including a modest condominium and a few investments, with an estimated net worth around $500,000. Though celebrated for his trailblazing roles, Sierra's life was a quiet storm of pain, principled rebellion, and unspoken sorrow, remembered more by his peers than the public. Nathaniel Taylor was born on March 31, 1938, and portrayed Rollo Lawson in Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 34. Rollo was the epitome of street charm, a smooth-talking, well-dressed ex-con who always walked a thin line between likability and trouble. While audiences found him hilarious and charismatic, Fred Sanford never trusted Rollo, often using him as a punchline for jokes about crime and laziness, creating a complex but iconic comedic tension. Rollo's flashy persona on screen masked a surprisingly turbulent personal life. Nathaniel Taylor was raised in a poor household in Los Angeles, where he often dodged neighborhood gangs and the juvenile system. Humiliation followed him through childhood. Mocked for his hand-me-down clothes and stutter, Taylor learned early on to hide pain behind a laugh. He originally trained as an electrician and used performance as a means of escape rather than ambition. Though his role in Sanford and Son opened doors, Taylor's career faltered after the series. He was never able to land another role of similar impact. In 1986, he was arrested for burglarizing an electronics warehouse, with over $200,000 worth of stolen items tied to the crime. The scandal was buried quickly, possibly with help from Red Foxx, but it derailed any chance of a mainstream comeback. Taylor became known in industry circles as unreliable and difficult to direct, allegedly showing up late or intoxicated. His greatest professional failure came when he lost a recurring role on Good Times after just one appearance, reportedly due to erratic behavior and tension with producers. Taylor's private life was equally chaotic. He had a troubled marriage marked by infidelity and financial strain, leading to a bitter divorce in the early 1990s. His son distanced himself for years, allegedly due to Taylor's temper and neglect. He later claimed to have found peace through religion, but close friends described his later years as lonely and full of regret. Following a series of minor strokes, Taylor passed away on February 27, 2019, at the age of 80 from complications following a heart attack in Los Angeles. At the time of his death, he owned a modest home and a single rental property, and his estimated net worth was under $300,000. Pat Marita, born June 28, 1932, began portraying Achu in Sanford and Son in 1974 at the age of 42. As one of the few Asian American characters in primetime television during the 1970s, Achu was a soft-spoken, good-natured friend of Lamont Sanford, often the unwitting target of Fred Sanford's racially insensitive jokes. Despite the stereotypical treatment, the character won viewers over with his quiet dignity, serving as a rare and important representation of Asian Americans in mainstream comedy. Marita's real life, however, was far from comedic. Born Noriyuki Marita to Japanese immigrants in California, he spent nearly a decade of his childhood in a body cast due to spinal tuberculosis and was transferred from a sanitarium straight into a Japanese internment camp during World War II. These early traumas left deep scars. He used comedy as a mask, adopting the nickname The Hip Nip as a stand-up comic. His career saw highs and devastating lows. He was once fired for Happy Days due to supposed creative differences, though insiders whispered it was linked to his alcohol-fueled mood swings. Despite earning critical acclaim and an Oscar nomination for his role as Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid, Marita battled personal demons throughout his life. He relapsed into heavy drinking in the early 2000s after years of sobriety, which reportedly destroyed his relationship with his third wife, Evelyn Guerrero. He had 2 daughters from previous marriages, both of whom became estranged due to his unpredictable behavior and absence. Though beloved by fans, Marita was said to be melancholic and reclusive in his final years, frequently missing industry events and isolating himself in Las Vegas. He died there on November 24, 2005, at age 73, from complications related to alcoholism, including a severe bladder and urinary tract infection. At the time of his death, his estate, comprising modest real estate, film residuals, and memorabilia, was estimated at $5 million. Despite his fame, his funeral was a quiet affair, a poignant reflection of the lonely final act of a man who once lit up the screen with warmth and wisdom. Gnome Pitlick, born November 4, 1932, appeared in Sanford and Son in 1972, at the age of 40, portraying Officer Swanee Swanhauser, a recurring character who was more earnest and effective. His role as the bumbling cop offered comic relief and juxtaposed Fred Sanford's cunning street smarts with bureaucratic cluelessness. Off-screen, Pitlick's life was riddled with conflict and contradiction. Born to a working-class Jewish family in Philadelphia, his early years were marred by emotional neglect and a tense household dynamic. He fled home at 17, bouncing between odd jobs while attending college. Though he became a prolific actor, appearing in over 80 TV series, he was never truly embraced by Hollywood's inner circle. His intensity, both as an actor and later as a director, earned him a reputation for being brilliant but volatile. After transitioning to directing, he found commercial and critical success, most notably directing 102 episodes of Barney Miller, for which he received both a Peabody and a Directors Guild Award. But even at the height of his success, whispers persisted, tales of on-set shouting matches, accusations of undermining colleagues, and a controlling attitude that alienated many collaborators. His personal life was equally rocky, 3 marriages, all of which ended in acrimonious divorce. One ex-wife accused him of being emotionally unavailable and manipulative, claiming he viewed love as a negotiation, not a connection. Pitlick was also rumored to have had a brief affair with a much younger actress in the late 1980s, which caused a minor industry scandal, though it was quietly hushed up. He was a lifelong smoker, which contributed to his rapid health decline. He ignored persistent symptoms for years, reportedly refusing treatment out of denial and pride, until he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. He died on February 18, 1999, in Los Angeles at age 66. His estate, though never formally disclosed, is believed to have been worth between $1.50 to $2 million, mostly from directing royalties and residuals. He left no heirs and few mourners. His death went largely unnoticed by the public, a quiet and ironic end for a man whose influence had once echoed across American television. Raymond Allen, born March 5, 1929, joined Sanford and Son in 1974 at the age of 45, portraying the perpetually buzzed but sweet-hearted Uncle Woodrow Woody Anderson. The character was beloved by audiences for his awkward charm and quiet quips, especially when caught in Aunt Esther's hurricane-like fury. But Allen's soft-spoken demeanor on screen stood in sharp contrast to his haunted personal life. Born into poverty in Kansas City, Missouri, he lost his mother to tuberculosis at age 7 and was raised in a chaotic foster care system. As a child, he was frequently relocated and reportedly subjected to physical abuse, experiences he never spoke about publicly. His Hollywood career was filled with fits and starts. Allen struggled with alcoholism throughout the late 60s, which he managed to hide from most of his colleagues. A pivotal blow came in 1980 when he was replaced on a major sitcom pilot after showing up drunk to rehearsals, a loss that devastated him financially and emotionally. Though he later sobered up, health complications and mental strain led to his quiet retirement in 1985. Allen's personal life was riddled with heartbreak. His daughter Terrence Allen, also an actress, became estranged from him in the 1990s after accusing him of emotional abandonment. His marriage to Barbara Williams was scarred by long separations and infidelity rumors, with Allen allegedly involved in a years-long affair with a costumer he met during a guest spot on Good Times. His final years were spent in a care facility, his mind fading and his body frail. He died on August 10, 2020, in California at the age of 91 due to a respiratory illness. Despite the struggles, his estate, largely comprising royalties and a modest Los Angeles home, was worth an estimated $300,000. Though Allen's name rarely made headlines, his troubled silence spoke volumes in a town that often drowns out the gentle voices. Freda Burr, born May 31, 1924, portrayed multiple roles including the woman on plane in Sanford and Son in 1974 at the age of 50. Though her appearances were brief, her sharp-tongued delivery and deadpan comedic timing left a lasting mark on viewers, often serving as the perfect, disapproving foil to Fred Sanford's outlandish behavior. Behind the camera, Burr's life was far more complex than her television cameos let on. Born Freda Burr in a working-class Jewish family in Philadelphia, she was raised by a stern and emotionally distant mother. Her father abandoned the family early, and her stepfather's adoption of her wasn't out of love, it was a means of legal necessity. Her early years were marked by relentless bullying for her awkward features and thick Philly accent, which she worked tirelessly to erase. Though she found moderate success across vaudeville and Broadway, her TV career was rocky. Burr was blacklisted in the late 1950s due to her brief association with progressive theater circles, leading to a 5-year drought of roles. Bitter from the experience, she developed a reputation for being controlling on set, especially with younger female actresses whom she accused of trading favors for roles. One of her biggest failures came when she was fired from a Broadway revival after she publicly slapped a stagehand over a missed cue, an incident hushed up with a financial settlement. Her personal life was equally tense. Married to agent Aaron Heyman, their union was marred by his gambling and her refusal to have children, which created a public scandal in 1968 when Heyman drunkenly accused her of being barren and bitter at a Hollywood party. Her final years were spent in relative isolation in Fort Myers, Florida, where she died of natural causes on January 17, 2003, at age 78. Her estate, modest by Hollywood standards, was valued under $500,000 and included residuals, a condo in Florida, and a trove of Broadway memorabilia. Marlene Clark, born December 19, 1938, joined Sanford and Son in 1976 at the age of 38, portraying Janet Lawson, the refined, level-headed girlfriend of Lamont Sanford. Her performance brought a touch of elegance and warmth to a show defined by chaos and slapstick, offering viewers a glimpse of maturity and romantic possibility for Lamont. However, behind Clark's polished on-screen image lay a life shaped by trauma, grit, and artistic rebellion. Raised in Harlem by her grandmother after being abandoned by her parents, she endured poverty and instability in her youth. Her early modeling career in New York was marred by racism in the fashion world, often being excluded from major campaigns. Transitioning to acting in the late 60s, she became a cult icon in horror and blaxploitation films, but the industry took a toll. In 1980, she confessed during a private panel that while filming Black Mamba, a co-star attempted to assault her, an incident that production tried to hush up. The trauma led her to step away from major studio films for a decade. Her brief marriage to Billy D. Williams ended in betrayal, with sources alleging infidelity and substance abuse on his part. Clark remained fiercely private but was rumored to have financial disputes with former agents and suffered from prolonged anxiety, which left her reclusive in later years. She battled depression and quietly withdrew from public life by the mid-2000s. Clark died on May 18, 2023, in Los Angeles at the age of 85, with the cause of death never officially disclosed, prompting speculation among fans. She left no will, and her estate, comprising modest art holdings and residuals, was valued at less than $250,000. Though rarely in the spotlight in her final years, her legacy remains that of a woman who stood tall in a brutal industry, scarred but never silenced. Helen Martin, born July 23, 1909, appeared in Sanford and Son in 1976 at the age of 67, playing the church-going First Lady whose righteous indignation was matched only by her razor-sharp comedic wit. The role, though small, showcased the charisma and biting delivery that made Martin a beloved presence in African-American sitcoms. Raised in a strict religious household in St. Louis, Martin fled to New York in her teens, lying about her age to study at Fisk University and later becoming one of the first black actresses to work on Broadway during the Harlem Renaissance. She endured endless rejection from casting agents who told her she was too dark, too strong, too old for lead roles. But she fought back with tenacity and humor, becoming a founding member of the American Negro Theater. Her film and TV success didn't arrive until her 60s, when she embraced a new kind of fame as the blunt, hilarious grandmother figure in Good Times and 227. Despite her public persona, Martin was a fiercely private woman, rumored to have had several intense but secretive relationships with women in the industry. She once joked on Conan O'Brien that if she hadn't become an actress, she'd be a stripper high on reefer, a moment that shocked and delighted audiences. But behind the humor was a woman who had survived decades of racial and gender bias with her fire intact. She never married and had no children. Friends said she lived with an unshakable loneliness, often retreating to her Monterey home, surrounded by books and jazz records. Helen Martin died of a heart attack on March 25, 2000, at the age of 90. Her net worth was estimated at $3 million, mostly from TV syndication and stage royalties. While she was never a tabloid fixture, her legacy remains embedded in the DNA of black television comedy, a woman who waited nearly 60 years to be seen and then refused to be forgotten. Nancy Culp, born August 28, 1921, joined Sanford and Son in 1975 at the age of 54, portraying May Hopkins, a prim, disciplined, and slightly uptight character who mirrored the persona she had perfected in the Beverly Hillbillies. Her brief role brought a sense of upper-class decorum to the otherwise chaotic and blue-collar Sanford world, and audiences welcomed her as a familiar face. But Nancy's life off-screen was layered with quiet defiance and unspoken battles. Raised in a conservative Pennsylvania town, Culp was an overachiever, graduating with a master's degree before enlisting in the U.S. Navy during World War II, where she served with distinction. Yet beneath her polished image, Culp grappled with her identity in an era where being openly gay could ruin careers. Industry insiders knew, but Hollywood never spoke of it aloud, until the late 1980s, when she subtly acknowledged her sexuality by saying she preferred birds of a feather, a coded yet courageous admission at the time. Her boldest move came in 1984, when she ran as a Democrat for U.S. Congress in Pennsylvania. Her campaign, however, was torpedoed when her former Hillbillies co-star Buddy Ebsen recorded a conservative ad opposing her, citing differences in values, a veiled reference that wounded her deeply. The loss was humiliating and essentially ended her public ambitions. She withdrew from the limelight and spent her final years teaching acting and mentoring young performers, living modestly in Palm Desert. She never married, had no children, and kept her estate affairs private. Culp died of cancer on February 3, 1991, at age 69. Though her net worth at death wasn't publicly disclosed, friends noted she lived simply, preferring causes and classrooms over celebrity. Her legacy was one of understated rebellion and principled resilience, a Hollywood woman who broke rules quietly but with unwavering grace. Frank Nelson, born May 6, 1911, appeared in Sanford and Son in 1972, at the age of 61 as the snarky co-pilot, his unmistakable yeast, transforming a minor role into a comedic highlight. Though short-lived on the show, the performance added a layer of absurd charm, echoing his decades-long persona of the unhelpful yet unforgettable customer service man. But the man behind the voice had secrets buried beneath his laughter. Nelson's childhood in Colorado was lonely, his mother institutionalized for schizophrenia, and his father a traveling salesman, rarely home. Entering vaudeville to escape, Nelson endured years of unpaid gigs and degrading side work. While widely respected in Hollywood, some insiders described him as quietly manipulative, securing roles through backdoor deals while blacklisting rivals in the 50s Red Scare era. Though never publicly exposed, one document suggests Nelson anonymously informed on colleagues to act to protect his own career. He was known for perfectionism bordering on cruelty, often berating junior writers during rehearsals. His first marriage ended after allegations of emotional abuse, and though his second wife remained with him until his death, she reportedly lived in a separate residence for over a decade. Despite outward stability, Nelson suffered from chronic insomnia, reportedly using amphetamines well into his 60s to maintain his signature energy. He passed away from cancer on September 12, 1986, at age 75 in Hollywood. His financial records show a surprisingly modest net worth, estimated at under $400,000, due to years of overinvestment in a failed radio syndication company and costly health treatments. His influence, however, endures in satire and homage, especially The Simpsons, which immortalized him through the yes guy, unknowingly preserving a complex man behind a single word. Slappy White, born Melvin Edward White on September 27, 1921, appeared in Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 51 as Melvin, one of Fred Sanford's longtime buddies. In the show, Melvin was a breezy, unfiltered comic relief who matched Fred's energy with effortless charm, an echo of White's real-life comedic persona. But behind the laughter was a lifetime of struggle and scars rarely acknowledged. Born into deep poverty in Baltimore, Slappy's early life was shadowed by racial violence and abandonment. His father left when he was 8, and White worked on the streets to support his mother and siblings. He entered showbiz through tap dancing, but was often forced to perform for food rather than pay. Despite breaking barriers in white nightclubs, White was often treated as a novelty, not an equal. His Las Vegas contract in the 70s was worth over $1 million, but it came with strings. He was banned from political jokes and allegedly forced to attend racial etiquette briefings. His personal life unraveled after his marriage to singer Laverne Baker, who left him following a string of affairs and gambling debts that nearly bankrupted him. White was also embroiled in a backstage feud with Red Foxx in the mid-70s, stemming from professional jealousy and money disputes, culminating in a violent shouting match during a taping of Sanford and Son that nearly ended his guest appearances. His darkest professional hour came when a controversial civil rights routine led to death threats and FBI surveillance. He later revealed in a 1988 interview that he had to sleep in different hotels each night while on tour in the South. Slappy died of a heart attack on November 7, 1995, in Brigantine, New Jersey, at age 74. At the time of his death, his net worth had dwindled significantly due to unpaid taxes, bad investments, and a lavish lifestyle, estimated at under $150,000. Yet despite the scandals and disappointments, White is remembered as a bold, defiant voice in comedy, a man who laughed through pain and challenged an industry that never fully embraced him. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from Sanford and Son who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.